Hello and welcome to this week's episode. So you might remember a few episodes ago, I sat down with Liam Ward from learntheharmonica.com and we talked all about different embouchures on harmonica. We talked about lip pursing and tongue blocking, and we were both quite dismissive of U-blocking as a technique. Now, today's guest actually sent me an email after listening to the episode and said that he was actually a U-blocker and was a pretty good player and wanted to set the record straight. So I listened to some of his playing and it's fantastic, and I was really pleased to sit down with him today. So today we'll be talking to Philip Jackson all about U-blocking as a legitimate alternative embouchure. So let's get started. Hi, Philip. Thank you so much for joining me today. So how are you doing before we get into the meat of it?
Oh, absolutely great. I've actually played one gig on Tuesday and I'm playing on Sunday. So we're getting underway again, which is great.
I am so jealous. I have nothing booked. And it's probably going to be a while because as well as COVID, I have a baby, so that kind of changes everything for availability for that kind of stuff. But I'm sure it'll start again soon. So whereabouts are you based for listeners to get a geographic idea?
I live in a little village just outside Lichfield in Staffordshire. And I play around the Lichfield area and up in North Staffordshire as well, around Leek, which is a very musical town, I might say.
Oh, yeah.
I also have a friend who has a blues band that I play in occasionally. He's from the Stoke area. So
very cool. Yeah. So that's UK bit kind of England for our US listeners.
Right in the middle of England.
Right in the middle, yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. So let's. We are going to talk about U-blocking, obviously, but before we get to that, let's kind of start a little bit with your backstory. And do you come from a musical family, or is that something that you discovered yourself?
No, yes, I do come from a musical family,
okay.
But not in blues at all, really. My mother was a classical pianist, and she played in a ballet school. So I was brought up with Chopin and Mozart and all the rest of it. And I had quite a reasonable musical education. I had piano lessons, which I hated. And I always feel when I'm playing piano that I'm playing an instrument, and when I'm playing harp, I'm expressing myself.
Okay.
So there's a big difference there. But my dad was a drummer, actually, in a dance band. And he had some old 78s of jazz and blues from when he was younger. Not just sort of up-tempo, cheerful sort of stuff, not real stuff. And I used to listen to his 78s, and they caught my ear more than my mum's Schumann or Schubert did.
That's fair enough.
Yeah.
That's very cool. So when you sent me an email, you said that you've been playing for 5 decades, and so I'm assuming that you must have picked up the harmonica pretty young.
Yeah.
When did you get started?
I got started, and I'll tell you how I got started. I got started through Manfred Mann, Paul Jones.
Nice.
And I heard the theme tune to Ready, Steady, Go, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I thought that is really cool, and that's what got me going. And from there, I got quite quickly into blues. My friends were all listening to Gino Washington and the Beach Boys and Stings, and I was listening to John Mayall and Sonny Boy Williamson and so on. And the big thing for me, the sort of blinding experience was hearing Paul Butterfield. Yeah. And I just thought, that's it. That's how I want to play. Those long, flowing lines, that sort of jazz improvisation. And I actually heard Paul Butterfield before Little Walter, which is really the wrong way around in a way, but nonetheless. So, Paul Butterfield's always sort of been my man. I think he's, just a brilliant player.
I'm with you. And actually, I heard Butterfield before I heard Little Walter and the Sunny Boys and Big Walter and all the classics. I did everything backwards. I kind of started from Adam Gusso and worked my way back.
Yeah, that's exactly the same situation. In fact, I did buy Down and Out Blues by Sonny Boy Williamson very early. It was a Marble Arch LP. I thought it was 14-6 or something at the time. And I thought, this is odd. And I couldn't really quite relate to the toughness and the roughness of the music. Mm-hmm. I love it now, but it took me a little while to appreciate what I was hearing. Whereas sort of Butterfield and Manfred Mann were just kind of there, and you were with it straight away. But now, Sonny Boy 2 is just a magnificent player. That's expression.
Yeah, I think that there's kind of there's a subtlety from those kind of older players that maybe takes a while to get into, whereas Butterfield is very approachable. It's very high energy and exciting, and
right, but technically very interesting.
Yeah,
his recording of Blues, Blues with a Feeling,
mm-hmm.
Which to me is one of those records you play if you want to find out if somebody likes blues or not. I still play that about once a month and have done for 50 odd years. I just think it's magnificent.
Oh, it's stunning.
I think it's high A. The beginning of his solo. It's just.
That's so good. So you started out, I'm assuming, just picking up a harmonica and trying to work out how to do it yourself. Is that kind of where it started and how you got into U-blocking?
Absolutely. I wanted to play. I got a harmonica. Obviously, I bought one in E, not knowing about second position. And it was an Echo Vamper, and I just noodled around with it. Drove my brother completely to distraction in the next bedroom, listening to me making all these dreadful noises. I hope the noise is a little bit better now. But so absolutely never looked at a book, never saw a lesson, never really heard anybody playing live. I just did it all in my bedroom, listening to records and just trying to work out what to do. And U-blocking just became absolutely, I remember the moment when I suddenly played a 3-note blues phrase.
Mm-hmm.
It just sort of came from nowhere and thought, crap, can I do that again? And I could do it again, and then I could add to it, and it just went from there. So I was completely and utterly self-taught.
That's brilliant. So no mentors or people who showed you?
Whatsoever. In fact, when I got to university, I met a guy, Mike Gledhill, great guitar player, and we palled up, and he helped me in a lot of ways. But with regard to harmonica technique, I was entirely just doing it as it seemed to me. And I'm astonished the way people talk about U-blocking. It really... I'm just amazed that people don't do it. It just seems natural to me.
Well, that's the thing is, and I'm really glad that you're here to kind of set the record straight, because my experience of U-blocking has been the odd student who's come in and has discovered U-blocking because it's quite an easy way to start playing clean notes, and then I've found it virtually impossible to teach them anything else. And to add anything to it, any of the kind of blues techniques. Did you find, because I mean you can do all that stuff. I've listened to your playing. It sounds great. Did you find that it was difficult to start bending and adding in some more kind of classic blues techniques?
No, not at all. Once I got going,
mm-hmm.
I think by the time I was sort of playing with Mike a lot, and I'd say by my early 20s, I was doing a lot of stuff. There was things I weren't doing, and I will say this: you and Liam and the rest are doing a fantastic job. And you can learn from you guys all the time, and Jason and Ronnie and all the rest, and John Gindick. You know, you're all teaching fantastically useful stuff. It's just if you're a U blocker, your personal technique you have to work out for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
But people can do that. It's not, but you can get loads of information and ideas from you and people like you. And they say that U blocking is something only some people can do, and they use it in science lessons.
Mm-hmm.
You know, can you roll your tongue up? You know, and some of the kids can, and some can't. And I looked into this a little bit, and about 2/3 of people can roll their tongue in that way.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's not a mysterious dark art. And I just think it's wrong to kind of think that U blockers should be kind of stuck in the West Wing covered in cobwebs like Mrs. Havisham and Day Expectations or something, you know.
Yeah.
It's a real functioning technique, no question.
Oh, definitely. And I was always aware that it was something that could be used for kind of chromatic single note playing. I'd never come across someone like you who can do all the other stuff, which is why I find it really interesting, and also why I'm very pleased to set the record straight, because I know both myself and Liam we came out of the gate quite aggressively and anti U blocking.
and Jason Ricky, and you're right about embouchure. Embouchure is what's important about is embouchure, because that gets your notes, you know, hopefully pitch correctly.
Mm-hmm.
And you hear a lot of players whose embouchure isn't right, and they're playing a lot just slightly out of tune, and you know you notice that a lot. But you said who's U blocker? Well, I remember many years ago hearing Bonnie Raitt's version of Runaway. You probably know.
Oh yeah.
And I heard this, and there was this driving harmonica solo. I mean, she really blues the song up, you know, beautifully. It's a terrific version. And this busting harmonica solo in the middle. And I thought, that's Butterfield, because it was so fluent and so intense. And it turned out it was, and Paul Jones in the blues program revealed this. It was a guy called Norton Buffalo.
Mm-hmm.
And Norton Buffalo was a U blocker. He's gone now. But if you listen to his stuff, particularly Roy Rogers, the blues guitarist, he was well known as a U blocker. I reckon there are others, but don't know about it, you know. They're just not letting know how they play.
Yeah.
And just one little aside, which always amuses me. Norton Buffalo is a stage name. His real name is Philip Jackson.
Oh wow.
So there you go.
That's amazing.
I like that as a fact. I just think that's great.
Oh, that is very cool. And yeah, I mean, Norton Buffalo is one of the most well-respected harmonica players of all time. So if it was good enough for him, then you know it's good enough for the rest of us. It's just really interesting that it has been so maligned. I'm wondering, have you discovered anything? Because we talk about the disadvantages. Have you discovered anything that you can only do U blocking? Are there cool techniques that you've got that the rest of us don't achieve with the kind of lip pursing or tongue block?
Well, I don't know, because as a U blocker, you play a lot with your tongue. Mm-hmm. Your tongue is the thing, much less with the throat. Mm-hmm. So I'm not sure how this will sound, but I'll just try. This is like a tongue vibrato. Okay, well, actually, it's a tremulant. I should. Paul Butterfield made the distinction. An on-off note and a change of pitch. Yeah. So something like that. Mm-hmm. What I call feathering, where you see like that, mm-hmm. which doesn't sound particularly bluesy. It sounds more Celtic, but you know, there is a kind of a sort of precision to it, perhaps, that can be difficult with other techniques to do. When you do tongue splits, which I'm not great at octaves, I can do them, but they are a little bit hit and miss. You actually use the underside of the tongue. Do you press your tongue, the top of the tongue against the harmonica to do a split? You're better at it than me.
Thank you. I think probably the top of my tongue, or the tip. I definitely use the top of my tongue for tongue blocking if I'm playing single notes.
Yeah. Well, what I would do is U blocking. If I wanted to play a split, then I'd just move the tongue up slightly and use the underside of the tongue.
Okay, that makes sense.
And that took a while to get that, and I'm not brilliant at it now, but I'm working on. That's one of the things I'm working on really at the moment.
Interesting. And have you thought about kind of becoming a hybrid player? Because there are lots of players who don't stick to one thing or another. They jump between different embouchures.
Well, I don't know the answer to that. That's an interesting question. I've thought about it because U blocking falls sort of between puckering and tongue blocking, and it's kind of like a bit of both, because you're providing an air channel like a pucker player does, but using your tongue. But then the lips kind of come round and they play a part as well. But in terms of pure tongue blocking. No, I've never really done that. Although, if you push your tongue against the harmonica in a U blocking position, then you're pretty close to tongue blocking. But you're still playing out of the centre of your mouth, not out of the side.
Yeah.
You know, was amusing. I see Rolly Platt and his harmonica's kind of half up his left ear roll. You know, and I think that's amazing. You know,
but it's quite interesting. Rolly Platt's a great example because it's a little bit like you. He started and no one showed him how to play, and he saw a picture. I think he saw a picture of Butterfield holding a harmonica at a jaunty angle on an album cover, and he just assumed that's how you did it.
Brilliant.
So it's all about Butterfield, isn't it?
Yeah, it's the cause of all the trouble.
But I think that's an important thing to remember is, if you listen to a teacher, what a teacher generally, hopefully, is trying to do is giving you the easiest way for the majority of people. But there's also a bit of an onus on you as a student. I don't mean you, I mean other people listening, to find what works for you better and what kind of fits your body and what feels natural. Because you clearly find U blocking natural. And that's great. Yeah. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
And if you're achieving the sound, at the end of the day, that's all that really matters.
Absolutely. And my mission today is to say, if someone comes along who is U blocking and as a teacher, I would say carry on. Understand that some of the things I'm teaching don't apply to you, but you've got to find your own way. If you do find your own way, you will be a better player and you'll be a more individual player, and that I think is important.
Definitely.
So I would encourage you blockers and say carry on, because it works.
Definitely.
It's great functionality.
And I'd like to bring it back round to something you said at the beginning when you were talking about your musical origin and how you had piano lessons. And you said that you played piano, but you could express yourself through the harmonica. And I think that's the distinction. If you find an embouchure and a technique and your own set of rules for the instrument that makes it feel like it's a part of you and it gets out of your way, because you don't want to be thinking about any of this stuff. You've got to do what feels natural, and then you can express yourself. Yeah,
that's the great advantage. And there are lots of disadvantages of being self-taught, like bad habits and not moving forward smoothly. But the big advantage of being self-taught is that you do have to put technical things out of the way. This is the way I do it, and let's get on with it. Let's try triplets and whatever else you want to do. I think that's terribly important. So harmonicas are very, you and I, as experienced harmonica watchers, we can listen to 20 or 30 players and we know instantly who they are.
Yeah.
I know I got Butterfield and Norton Buffalo mixed up, but I admit that. You know Alan Wilson straight away. You know Sonny Boy, the two Sonny Boys straight away. And it's that individuality which is, I think, is Well, I think the whole harmonica thing, I agree with Giles Robson when he said that harmonicas are very badly served by popular music. It's just been a lot of rubbish played and very easy rinky-dink stuff. And the proper players tend to be far less acknowledged.
Yeah, no doubt.
I only found out about Pat Ramsey fairly recently.
Oh, wow. What a treat.
Wow, So, yeah, you have to play it your own way because there's nothing to see. It's all there in your gob, and that's the wonder of it, really.
Yeah, you have also just highlighted the challenge of being a harmonica teacher. There's nothing there to see. So,
I'm in awe of you and Liam. Break everything down, and I just think I was a teacher all my life, and the last thing I'd ever want to do is teach harmonica. I'll be honest with you, because I taught in schools and universities, and I'd never want to. Harmonica's that's my time. That's me doing what I do, and you guys are really good.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that, and I'll let Liam know.
Yeah, no.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on to set the record straight. I really want to encourage people listening to this to go and listen to some of your music. So I'm going to link up your band, Jack's Hill. Is there anything else that you want to point people in the direction of?
There's something you haven't asked the question, which I thought you might ask, and that is, what about overblowing?
We could talk about overblowing, definitely.
That is a problem. I can't overblow. I mean, I've tried, and I can make a noise like a sort of sick cow. I'll just get so fed up with it. I just think, there's other things I'd rather do than mess around with this. And, and I hear Howard Levy, and I think, my God, you are about 10 light years away from me as a player. You're just fantastic. And I hear you and Liam overblowing, and I think, but I get round that to some extent by using harmonicas in different tunings. And this is something that I'm very passionate about. Don't just stick with Richter isn't logical anyway.
No.
I always said a pain in the backside, really.
Yeah.
And I use harmonic minors a lot. I like third position, but there's things you can do with a harmonic minor you can't do in third position. You get a different voicing anyway. And do you know about ED harmonicas?
No.
Yeah, they're called easy diatonic. They were brought out a few years ago, and they are entirely, and this appeals to me because I like things very well ordered, and they just go from the top to the bottom in sequence like a piano, no black notes, whatever the tuning is. So you can play a passage in the bottom octave. You can do exactly the same in the middle octave and exactly the same in the top octave. And they are absolutely superb. And again, if I was a teacher, I would say, don't just stick with Richter. And I'd like to see new players playing Will Wild harmonicas. I think they'd do some great stuff with those and developing that. And I think we've been a bit of a slave to Richter. And it was designed to play German folk tunes, wasn't it? With the melody on the top and the keys on the bottom. It's good at that. So U-block, do it your own way. Experiment with different. If you can afford it, I know not everybody's got the money, but I've got dozens of harmonicas, but different tunings are great. They're really interesting, and they open up all sorts of possibilities.
Absolutely. And I kind of avoid the overblow question because I think overblows are overemphasized as an important...
Overblown.
Yeah, they are. I mean, when students ask me about learning overblows, I always like to make sure that they know why they're learning an overblow. Because I learned overblows because there were notes missing, specific notes I wanted to play. But if they're not if you're playing and you're not thinking, God, I really wish that note was there, then you don't need to learn to overblow. And actually, the difficult, not overblowing opens up different things. It makes you play more interestingly in a lot of ways. It makes you do different harmonic choices.
Yeah.
So yeah, I do think that the alternative tunings is a really interesting path to go down. I was chatting to Todd Parrott, who's one of the best overblow players out there, and he uses alternative tuning so he doesn't have to overblow when it's better not to overblow.
Well, that's my get out of jail card as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Brilliant. Yeah. Cool. Well, I think that this has been very, very insightful. I will link up some stuff for people to check out of yours, and I'll put a little recording of you playing as well. Yeah, thank you so much. This has been a lot of fun.
Thank you very much, Tomlin. Great.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of my Harmonica podcast. Please don't forget to subscribe and leave a review on your podcast service of choice. And if you're ready to take your harmonica playing to the next level, then you should check out my online harmonica school over at tomlinharmonicaschool.com. Happy harping!